Hey, Greg Harrelson here. I want to introduce, of course, most of you know my business partner, Brendan Payne, has joined me in cutting this video. We just want to talk about, the things that real estate agents are told that we feel like they should have been told something differently in order to help them get to the next level. Brendan, you and I have talked to a lot of agents, and through our attracting them to our group and helping them get to top level production. And through that process, the types of agents we've talked to are brand new licensees that had no habits, maybe some that came from other companies that had habits. But for some reason, those habits and what they were taught by those other companies really only enabled them to get to 5, 10, maybe 12, 13 transactions. And then they hit a plateau and had no idea how to get to the next level. So we just want to have a conversation together about, what are those things that agents are told that maybe were not accurate or at least were not in alignment with what the agent's goals were. An agent says, hey, I want to create some wealth for my family. I want to do 30 transactions a year or 60 transactions a year, or I want to make 100,000 or 500,000. It seems like the things that brokers and owners and managers are telling the agents these days don't match those goals. They're told what it's going to take to maybe just possibly survive in the business, but nothing more than that. So what's your take on this before we get into the actual points for today, Brendan?
Yep, and I think you hit a critical point there, and I think it's good for everybody to know from the beginning that it's about being in alignment with what the agent wants. So just full disclosure, I think our conversation is going to be for those people that are looking at creating a business. So a business that is going to provide more than just a job. It's going to provide some opportunities for long-term wealth. Listen, if your goal with being in real estate is to do a deal a month or something like that, then a lot of this stuff might not be as critical to your business or what you're doing with real estate than somebody that's wanting to actually create a bigger business. So I think that's an important distinction. And I kind of look at these topics that we're going to talk about. Really, they came to me in just me saying, I wish that the brokers, owners, sometimes so-called coaches, etc., would just stop telling agents these things, because they're just not going to get the agents that are trying to build a business where they want to be. I think that's kind of in a nutshell what this is going to be about.
Yeah, we want to be very respectful to the industry. As well as to just, the brokers and owners that are all across the country. Yet if we want to be transparent, Brendan, I think sometimes you and I look at some of the things that are being told to these agents and we're saying, gosh, these are almost flat out lies. This is, it's so obvious that what they're teaching them is not going to get them to their goal, that I wonder why they said it in the first place, and I think I've come to the conclusion that a lot of times brokers and owners have a hard time just kind of laying the truth out, being honest with new agents or just agents that are trying to get to the next level. I don't feel like they're maliciously out there trying to hurt anybody. Yeah. They're probably doing the best that they can in terms of guiding and sharing with the agents. But what we've learned in creating top producers and what it really takes, it's not that it's hard, but it seems to be quite different than what most people are telling these agents. So I think a lot of brokers and owners are really wanting to be liked and wanting to be accepted, by their agents. So therefore they hold back the truth. When the reality is I think that they just need to be transparent and they need to be really honest with agents. So agents have a chance to make it and to reach their goals and reach their dreams. So how does it start? So what are some of the things? Let's talk about what's the first lie or comment that we know people tell that we know is really not gonna work.
Yeah. So the one thing the first one that I wrote down, which I just actually out of the 8 or 10 that we'll go through, I think is probably one of the most important, was stop telling lower producing agents or new agents that are getting in the business that you're going to be able to coach them into the productivity that they want if you or someone that's going to be coaching them hasn't already done that type of production. Like, stop coaching from theory. You have to coach and you have to train from experience.
Yes. And as you were talking, I didn't know if you were going to say the word experience or not. But that's exactly what's coming to my mind. It's like, when you look at some of the great coaches across the country, whether it be real estate or whether it be other topics, the experience they're bringing to the conversation seems to be that tipping point where, that tips the agent over into being able to take action and succeed at a high level. And I really think it makes it more believable for the agent. If you're telling the agent, hey, well, read this book and do what the book says, not every agent really responds well to that. Like, they may read the book, they may attempt to do it, but that differs from the person that says, hey, read this and watch me do this, or, read this and let me share with you how I've actually executed on this in my career. Having that experience to share, I think, makes it more believable, and it definitely inspires the agent to take action. It makes them feel like, hey, gosh, if they did it, I can do it. Yeah. They need to be able to see evidence that it worked. Is that, that's my thoughts on what you just said.
Yeah. And, if you're in this business for more than a day or two, you're going to realize at some point you're going to wonder and you're going to doubt and you're going to have some question about whether the things that you're doing, whether you're going to be able to get what you want in this business. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of questions. It takes longer than you usually think it's going to. So at some point, credibility becomes absolutely, it's imperative. Credibility of whoever you're listening to.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great one. That's a great one. Another one, I know we kind of made a few notes because I wanted to get these right, or at least get these out. Another one that we talked about is stop telling them you don't have to make outbound calls in this business. Yeah. And golly, now not only are brokers, owners, managers, team leaders saying that, but it seems like every day you open up Facebook, they're telling you that you don't have to do that. You could get rich in real estate without ever making a phone call. Like drop your home phone, drop your cell phone. You don't need to work for it. Like, no phones, and you're going to be able to make money in this business. Why are people telling agents this?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think it's born out of the resistance to the awful word of prospecting, of cold calling, of all of that. And it all just kind of gets lumped into, well, that's outbound calls. But when you have conversations a little bit deeper with agents, then, you ask them, okay, they come in and they say, listen, I don't want to do any this prospecting, and I don't all this generating of stuff. I don't want to do that stuff. Say, okay. And you have a little bit deeper conversation and you figure out that's not really what they're saying. They might not want to pick up a neighborhood list and make cold calls, just listed calls and things like that. But they understand, hey, if you provide some contacts for me, I'm willing to make those calls outbound. But here's what happens. They go and they talk with other people that have a little bit other opinion on it. And they say, well, I don't want to make calls. And they don't go any further. Okay, well, you don't have to make calls. And they introduce things like, what, one of the things that we do is we will, maybe we'll have something at one of the local sporting events, and you can set a tent up there and people will come to you, and that'll be a great way to build your business. And you're going, wait a second, is that really going to work for that person? And now that person who you could have coached into, this is really what we're talking about in terms of generating. They don't ever even get exposed to it, and they were willing to do it. That's the real issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm thinking about people will say, hey, you should do a bunch of open houses. Now, I actually agree you should do open houses, but here's the key. It's like, do open houses, and then all the people that come into your open house, like if you do an open house on Saturday and 10 people visited that open house on Saturday, then Monday, you need to call all 10 people and check in with them. So, you're talking about they associate making calls with prospecting, that word that most people just can't stand. I don't want to prospect. Well, every outbound call you make is really a form of prospecting.
Right.
So we can just get rid of that word if we want to, or we can use the word if we want to. The key is when we tell people they don't need to prospect, they don't need to make calls, then simple things like following up with all the people that came to your open house, then that agent hears, well, I shouldn't be making calls. I'll wait for them to call me. Mm-hmm. And we know that just doesn't happen in today's real estate industry. That might have happened 10 or 15 years ago, but now with all the noise and distraction in the industry and all the different, websites that these consumers get on a daily basis, the likelihood that they're going to remember to call you is unlikely. And the likelihood that somebody's going to call them before they call you is highly likely. Yeah. So yes, you have to make calls. Somebody does direct mail. Well, guess what? When you get a direct mail piece, you've never talked to them. I mean, you send out a just sold card. You haven't talked to the person. They call back. You've got to make an outbound call to them. So I know that might sound obvious, but just brokers and owners saying, hey, you don't have to make any calls is confusing the real estate agent and hindering them from getting to the next level.
And at a time in the industry where it's probably never, that belief has never been more damaging, because we're catching so many people earlier in the sales cycle now that it's actually requiring more calls, more attempts, and more effort than it did 5 or 6 years ago, just because of how technology's kind of changed the sales cycle of a real estate lead. So there's never been a time where having the belief that, listen, I'm going to have to make a lot of outbound calls. Doesn't mean that, it's any one particular area, but that is part of sales, which is another point we'll get to.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Let's get right to it.
So I put on there, stop letting people believe that they will be able to reach the goals that they want without becoming great salespeople. So this really is just an extension of the last one, that, listen, you are always going to be in the generating business. You're always going to have to, if somebody hands you somebody that is ready to buy or sell today, they're not going to come on over, set all those things up, all the listing or all the appointments up, and then go out and write the contract and it's going to close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. There are going to be steps that you have to take. And part of those steps are becoming a really, really good salesperson. And I think sometimes people have that there's a connotation. Well, salespeople, boy, I don't want to do that. I want to have a relationship with my clients, and all that stuff is good. But in the end, you are a salesperson. And if it's easier to think about, if you're going to represent your clients at the highest level, you need to be a salesperson for them, because you're going to be a negotiator for them in all different steps of the transaction. And there is no strong negotiator that is not a great salesperson. So if that's the only thing that you can hang on to and say, that's the reason I need to be a great salesperson, then make that it. And then you'll become really good in a lot of other areas.
Yeah, so you got the term salesperson, which we know in the industry, no one says, hey, you know what, we need to make sure that you improve your skills so you can be a great salesperson and you can earn the level of income you want. Like, companies just don't say that. Everyone stays away from the word salesperson, as just like they stay away from the word prospecting. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that when somebody is interviewing an agent to sell their home, then they're looking for someone who is a sales person. And so what we are afraid to admit we are is exactly what the consumer wants us to be. So just the avoidance of talking about that term salesperson creates a disconnect between you, the agent, in the consumer. And we wonder why is our conversion so low? Why are we not getting this business? It's like when they're looking for a salesperson to hire, but we show up as everything but a salesperson, and then we go and leave and wonder, why didn't we get hired? And you also said something, about relationships. Okay, like, well, I'm not a salesperson. I like to create relationships. I want to make a connection here. Great salespersons, great salespeople know how to develop relationships. So I'm a relationship person is one quality of being a great salesperson. So I think people like to identify with some of the qualities of being a great salesperson when we need to be identifying with just being a salesperson and then developing those qualities. See, being a salesperson without those skills like building rapport, having a great relationship, asking questions, being a salesperson without those makes you a poor salesperson. Being a salesperson with all of those qualities makes you a great salesperson. So we're not saying, oh, you can't be a real estate consultant. You can't be a relationship person. You can only be a salesperson. We're saying you can't be a salesperson unless you're all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think if people are honest, then they want to be able to provide the highest level of service. And what you said at the beginning, that's what the consumer's asking for. That's why they are in every market. They could hire somebody that is the relationship first, and they don't. So we know that's kind of what they're looking for.
Yeah. Good.
What do you have next?
All right. So the next one I have here, or we have on this list, is stop telling them that they've got the right personality to be able to be great in real estate. Great agents are great because they've got great work ethic, right? But we know that so many people, you'll hear about brokers and owners will meet somebody at a restaurant and they'll say, oh my gosh, you have a great personality. You should get into real estate. We hear that all the time. Or we hear, people are already in real estate and they go to a company and the manager says, oh man, you've got a great personality. I mean, you're going to be able to be great at this, or you should be doing much better than this. So personality, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my thoughts are there's no correlation. There's no correlation. Now, is it great to have a great personality? Absolutely. But I've seen, and you've seen, there's been plenty of people that have come into this business and had unbelievable, get along with everybody, great outgoing personalities. And we look and we go, oh my gosh, they've got so much potential, but there were a couple of key things missing. And then on the flip side, we have people that have come in before and we've been like, wow, kind of abrasive, kind of a little bit difficult to get along with, but unbelievable salespeople and unbelievable service providers to their clients. So it's not like there's one without the other. They're great at what they do and they provide an incredible service. But what you said at the beginning, the first thing starts with, regardless of personality, you have to have the desire to be really, really good. You have to have the desire and want to succeed. Then you actually have to have a really good work ethic. Then you've got to get somebody that's going to be able to kind of show you what to do. That's the coaching and the training side of it. And then you have to actually develop the skills. So those 4 steps, I think, are probably the 4 main areas that determine, and it's not personality.
Yeah. I just made a little note here, and it reminds me of something my dad said, and this is a play off something he said. He didn't really say this. But it just dawned on me that, when somebody says oh gosh, you have a great personality, they're coming from a place of that's their opinion of you, right? And it's a very positive opinion, and we like to hear that, and the person who says it probably likes to say that. But, every person that one person says has a great personality, there's probably another person that's repelled by that same exact personality. It's like, so what is a great personality? Like there is no such thing as a great personality where everyone in the world is going to agree that that's a great personality.
Right.
when whoever says you have a great personality, because they see you as that. But we know there's somebody in the world that would actually look at you and say, I don't really like their personality. That's just the reality of life. And that goes for every single person. So every person that has a personality, which is everybody, someone actually views that person that having a great personality, and there's somebody that views that person as having a not so great personality. Personality is not a factor. We all have one. What I like what you said, it's like what you learn, what you pour into the industry is what's going to get you to the next level. All personalities are fine. You're right. I can think of people right now that are doing phenomenal that I think, their personality, they got an okay personality, and they're crushing it in the business. Now, there's other people in their life that are probably looking at them and say, gosh, they're crushing it in the business. It must be because they have such a fantastic personality.
Right.
And then the reverse applies. So look, if somebody's telling you got a great personality, good for you, fantastic. I believe you probably do. But the reality is that's not going to be enough to get you through, to break through to the next level.
Yeah, very true. All right. So I wrote down this one. I wrote down as my number 2, and it's stop telling agents that they don't need to learn scripts and dialogues in this business. And I just, it's amazing to me. And I hope if we can clear this or give somebody a different way to look at this, one person off of this video somewhere, then it's worth doing the video. So here's a couple of things. Here's a couple of thoughts I've got on it. One, everybody in the business and everybody in every part of their life uses scripts and dialogues. We do it. They're called habits. It's how we respond to things. So if you think about agents that are performing really well are using scripts and dialogues. Agents that aren't performing well are using scripts and dialogues. The agents that are performing well are using scripts and dialogues that are more effective. That's the difference. So when you talk with a broker, owner, coach, manager, and a great test that I wish would just be mandatory would be, hey, do you think that, do I have to go out and learn all these scripts and stuff like that? And kind of say it like that, because of course, then they're going to be like, well, they don't want to talk about that. So I'm going to tell them, we don't need to do that. No, you don't have to learn any of that stuff. Okay. Then are you telling me that I don't know what to say? I don't need to know what to say in this business, because that's what it is. You just have to learn what to say in the business. That's all they are. It doesn't mean anything more or less than that. If you look at and follow an agent who is having challenges, they're probably saying the same things over and over and over that just aren't effective. They're using scripts and dialogues. Same as the person that's doing really, really well. It's just their scripts and dialogues are getting them further.
Yeah. Yeah. And God, I got so many thoughts in my head on this one, and I just thought of I think one of the reasons why leaders kind of hold back from telling people that they need to learn scripts and dialogues is, I think, let me back up. So in the real estate industry, it's been known that real estate salespeople or agents are kind of not on the highest level when it comes to the consumer believing or having a respect for the industry. In other words, when you start to measure like what industries have the highest respect, real estate agents, car salespeople, we're kind of like at the lower level. And we wonder, or I always wonder, why is that? And I think the reason is because the leaders, brokers, owners, managers, I don't think that a lot of people in those positions actually believe we're truly professionals out there serving the community. And like a doctor, for instance, they believe that they're really serving people. And the people that believe, that are really like, I want to go out and have the highest impact, create the best value, serve the consumer at the highest level, those are the people that actually study their trade. They study their conversations to make sure that they deliver the highest level of service. But if you don't believe you're at the status of like a doctor when it comes to the impact you can have on people, then I think then you'll just say, I don't really need to learn scripts and dialogues. But what if you went to a doctor? If you went to a doctor and you needed a surgery, wouldn't you want the doctor to have practiced many, many times, at school before they actually started having surgery on you? Wouldn't you want them to know their scripts? In the medical field, it's their procedure. So scripts and procedures are the same exact thing. See, we would demand health professionals to have mastered their scripts and procedures, but we're not demanding ourselves to do the same. And then we're questioning why in the world are the consumers not looking at real estate agents and in the same light as they are very high level, surgeons.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind. It's like, and we know that people are saying, well, I don't want to learn scripts because I don't want to sound canned. And there's a whole nother conversation about that. You only sound canned when you've only memorized the script. You only sound canned when you've only memorized. You will no longer sound canned once you memorize them, then internalize them because you understand them, then let your personality come through.
Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of this relates back to number one, which was, maybe if the person that's coaching them or is talking to them about what it's going to take to be productive, if they haven't done that themselves, then it's going to be a tougher concept for them to understand.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. If you're really looking to get to the next level, you went back to experience, right, and having credibility. And, I would probably challenge, most brokers, owners, and managers who are so-called leaders of agents. I'd love to see them actually dictate the scripts. I'd love to hear them recite the scripts. A lot of times, the people that are not telling their agents that they need to know scripts are the ones that never learn scripts themselves. Yeah. And this is the area, like two scripts come across my mind. Somebody says, will you cut the commission? And I could say, sure. Okay. Or somebody says, will you cut the commission? And I say, no, I can't do that. Do you have any other questions? Like, those are two different scripts, right? One is probably going to help you maintain your level of commission, the commission that you really want. And the other script is going to have you cutting the commission and losing dollars on every single transaction. And it's just as simple of a few words.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So the next one we have here is stop telling them you have better leads. Yeah. So this one, I don't even know how to, this is just a scam. I forget about a lie. This is a scam in our industry. This is a scam. Yeah, but come to my company. We've got better leads.
Yeah.
It's like, I can tell you right now, and this is a bold statement, but I'm really believing it.
Let's hear it.
If we actually research the sales productivity of the companies that say they have the best leads to give, I bet you their sales productivity is below average. That's a scam. Nobody has better leads. Listen, leads are people. Leads are people. Like people are saying, oh, I got these internet leads. Okay, great. Everybody's got the same leads. The leads themselves are not good or bad. It's the conversations of the agents. It's the conversation the agent is having with these people that determine whether the leads are good or bad. You could take one company's leads, take them away, and I've done this. I've seen where I've actually taken people that said, oh, I've got all these dead leads. Okay. And then we'll take those dead leads from them. We'll run them through our systems, make calls to them, and all of a sudden find all kinds of business. So I would have said, oh my gosh, these leads are great. And some other company said, these leads are terrible. terrible. It wasn't the people, it wasn't the leads, it was the conversation we were having. Gosh, I hope agents will get this. The lead conversation is a scam. Do not join companies and move from one company to another because they have better leads.
Yeah.
Well, I said a lot there. Okay, I said it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that example it's just so true that you've got lead source A that you got a lead from in March of 2019. Terrible, not doing anything. He told me they were just looking, blah, blah, blah. They were gone. Agent B gets same person, same lead in October 2019 from lead source X. Closes a deal with him in the next 60 days. Agent B is like, that, oh my God, that source is unbelievable. Agent A that got it in the spring is like, oh man, that's terrible. Same person. It's about the process that they went through. And a lot of it's timing. You roll in and you get the lead today and it closes in 45 days. That probably was less about what you said and more about you just lucked out of the timing. Good deal. Move on. That happens too. So, I think that the interesting thing is I think that agents are figuring this out. And I think this is becoming one of the clearest lies that agents see, that the companies are not understanding yet, that the agents get this. The agents get that I'm working the same stuff as every other agent in town. So now it's I think the shift is agents figuring out, how can you help me work these leads? It's not about the lead quantity or the lead quality. It's about how can you help me connect with them and convert them. And I think that's from a company's perspective, I hope they don't figure this out, but I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then, kind of along that same vein of what we've been talking about, I think that there is a fear of, there's an unwillingness for owners, brokers, managers to be straight with agents when agents come in and say, listen, this is what I want to do, but I'm not really going to be able to do this full time. Or they say I'm going to do this full time. And, they come in and their activities don't mirror that. So the myth or the lie that I think is being told is that you can actually generate a full-time income by being a part-time agent in this business. So, it's just one of those things. Everybody, if you ask anybody why they get into real estate, top 3 things are going to be because I want to be my own boss, I want to have unlimited income, and I want to write my own schedule. And all those things are possible after you build a foundation that was created on a lot of discipline. But that's not the conversation that they're having. Conversation that they're having is, you can come in here and you can do a lot. Well, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this. Okay, well, we can still do that without being a salesperson, without making outbound calls, and without, actually working. We can still make that happen. And there's all kinds of business models out there. We know that. There's all kinds of business models out there. There's some that are agent focused, and the business model is, if the agent produces more, we all win. And then there's other ones where we want the agent to produce, but at a certain point, that agent is going to they're going to consume more than we're actually getting from them. So there is no upside for the company to grow people into the producing levels that they want. Then that's a conflict of interest. That's a conflict of interest. If the agent's growth means the company doesn't, that's a conflict.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you've said so much there. And I think what's going through my mind right now is I don't want to deter or discourage anybody that's thinking that, that they want to get into real estate, but they only have part-time, they can only do it part-time. Surely don't want to discourage that. But I think what we're really talking about here is that the managers or brokers, the leaders in our industry, are a lot of times, they're just not leveling with them and saying, hey, yes, you can do some business when, even if you're only part-time. But, in other words, let me back up here. So I'm going to reflect on an experience that I had 2 weeks ago. An agent's coming into the business and they're talking to me and they're saying, hey, I'd like to maybe join your company. And I said, okay, well, what are you looking to accomplish? Well, I'd really like to make, $100,000 or more, and, in the business. And I started asking a bunch of questions and, I asked them, well, what kind of time commitments are you going to be able to make to the industry? To your new profession. And that's when this person says, well, that's kind of like that's kind of one of the challenges that I have. And that's how it usually shows up right there. It's like, hey, I want to make 40 sales. I want to make $100,000 or $200,000. And I'm willing to do what it takes. And then I ask a few questions. And one of the critical ones, okay, well, what kind of commitment are you going to be able to make when it comes to the time you can invest in this business? And then they say, well, that's kind of one of the challenges. And, I have to do this in the mornings and I could probably come in maybe 3 days a week. And I can't work, in the evenings on Thursdays and Fridays. I can't work, on Friday at all. And right there is when the broker owner or manager has a dilemma.
Yeah.
Do I let them down and say, hey, look, you're not going to be able to, it's not likely that you'll earn full-time income when you're committing part-time hours. You can make part-time income with part-time hours or full-time income with full-time hours. Like for some reason that conversation is not taking place. Yeah. Because if and I did say that to this person or a variation of that. And now this agent is contemplating, am I really going to go into the business or am I not? Because they need full-time income or can only put in part-time hours. And I've leveled with them and now they're reevaluating, do I need to figure out another way to get full-time into the business or do I just need to stay out? Because just doing 2 or 3 sales for that person wasn't acceptable. Yeah. She needed full-time income. So part-time is fine. But part-time with the expectations that you're going to make full-time income is not good. It's going to lead to disappointment. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to lead to failure. You've got to have your expectations in line. The activities and the expectations must be in alignment.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is we mentioned it early on. Of what I said at the beginning, what the point of this was. This is, and I'm glad you clarified that because there are great part-time agents in it's about alignment. So we said at the beginning, this is if you're really, really trying to grow your business to something in your mind that is more than, just a couple deals here and there. It's really proactive and it's not a job, then that's where this conversation revolves around. And you're right. It's about being in alignment. Have the courage to have the conversation, knowing that might, they might not come on and do 2 or 3 deals, but that might keep them from making a mistake and failing at something that wastes a lot of their time because it wasn't in alignment.
100%. Yeah. Hey, before we end, because I know we're kind of at the end of the original list of things that we wanted, I actually did think of another one before the recording this morning. And I'll throw it out there. Stop telling them that you have the best technology in the business. I mean, oh my gosh. It's like
for 5 seconds.
Okay.
You have the best technology. Now it's gone.
I'm going to do it again. It's a scam. It's a scam. It's like, but we have the best technology. It's like, I won't name companies because I just don't think that's fair. But, there's companies out there right now that are recruiting agents saying, gosh, we are a technology company. We're the best technology. And then like 3 months after they say that, then you'll see in the news that they just actually purchased a technology that's been on the shelf for years. And now that's their new CRM. Like somebody's got the best technology, then buys a third-party CRM that all agents all over the country are already using, but now they're saying, oh, this is part of our technology suite or our technology stack, and I've been fortunate. I've been very fortunate. And a lot of this comes from my relationship with coaching companies. I've got relationships with owners and agents like of all different brands. It doesn't matter. Century 21, which is of course, what who Brendan and I are affiliated with, but whether it be Caldwell Banker or Keller Williams or Better Homes and Gardens, you name it, Realty One, all these companies that are that are out there. I've been fortunate to kind of get a look at the technology, and all the technologies are the same. I mean, yes, one company has one feature in their CRM that's better than the other company, but then that other company has one feature that's in their websites that is better than that other company. It's like, it's kind of like everyone's number one, which means nobody's number one. That's kind of how this technology thing is. And I'm seeing so many agents being recruited or being enticed to go over just to a company just because the company's saying, I've got the best technology. Yeah. It's a scam, Brendan. It really is. And I got to bring it up because I'm tired of seeing agents go to these companies and then turn around 6 months later and actually leave those companies. That's devastating to one's real estate career when you have to keep bouncing around. And people are bouncing around because people are calling them, trying to recruit them by saying, we've got this new shiny object that's going to change their life. No, it's not. It's not. It never does.
And just to complete that circle, what is the technology always related to?
I'm not sure where you're going with that one.
Isn't the technology and how great it is always related to the quality of the leads or how they're going to be able to convert them more?
Yeah.
So we already established that the leads are all the same. We're all working them. So if that's a scam, then the technology part's a scam too.
Yeah. It comes back to, what's interesting? I think a lot of the companies that say I've got the best leads also say I've got the best technology and the best leads. But just do your research. Yeah, do your research on the companies that say that and look at what the average per person production is within those companies, and you'll see they actually fall below average in most cases.
Yep.
So there's the conflict. I've got the best, but my agents are producing the worst.
Yep.
So be careful out there. Be careful. It's a business out there where so many companies and managers they want more agents so bad that they're kind of stretching the truth a little bit.
Yep. Good. Well, I think that brings us to, I guess, the end of our list. Maybe we'll start another one as we hear more things. But I've enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. I hope the audience gets something out of this, and appreciate you getting on. I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you for bringing this subject to the forefront.
Awesome. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.